Welcome to the Reclaim Leader podcast. I'm Jason Tucker.
And I'm Jesse Skiffington.
We're two pastors in the trenches who are passionate about church health for greater gospel impact.
We share the ups and downs of ministry, strategies that worked for us,
and some that didn't.
Best practices and practical tools for church leadership.
The goal, to help all of our churches flourish. Let's get started.
See another sunrise, sing a little song.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reclaim Leader. It is that time of year. We just had our big staff meeting, Jesse, which is we try to do every month. We'll do like an all-staff meeting, and we're kind of going over what's coming up in the next month or 6 weeks. And man, the list was so long of stuff, and everybody was in a good mood, but everybody was just kind of like, "Oh my gosh, it's here! It's here! We're not going to sleep until New Year's," you know?
Oh man, yeah, I hear you. We were kind of walking it back from January 1st. And I love those meetings, but they're also, because I know how important they are, but they're also the most deflating meeting for me because there's so many details and so much in the weeds. And I'm just like, all right. And then, but this year it was fun. We're going through and we're planning a staff Christmas party just for our staff during our regular staff meeting. And so I kept calling it our Christmas meeting. And staff were like, no, it's going to be a Christmas party, which means we're not going to be meeting. And I was like, no, I think it might have to be a Christmas
worst
meeting.
Party invite ever.
Yeah, that's right. But that's it. It's just there's so much going on this time of year is what it comes down to. So I couldn't escape. Even around a Christmas party, I had to call it a Christmas meeting because there's just more to be done. Always more to be done.
I love it. Well, hey, Pastor, wherever this podcast is finding you, whether you're watching it way later, maybe it's February by now, I don't know, but as you're kind of doing life and ministry, I just hope that we can be a friend that helps you and encourages you through it. I think we all need that. I'll speak for myself. I know I need it, which is really the heart and soul of this podcast. And I want to welcome everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks to all of our new listeners who've joined us and all the folks who've been reaching out, asking questions. Getting in great conversation with someone down in Virginia this last week, a pastor down there asking, "Hey, how'd you do this? We're in this situation," and it's great. It's so encouraging to hear what God's doing all across the country. So keep it coming.
Sometimes people are like, "Hey, can we talk and talk shop about something?" And I walk away with like 3 good ideas, and I'm like, "Man, that's awesome." So we love talking shop because it sharpens us too, just to get to talk with pastors and leaders. And so, I was talking to somebody in Minnesota yesterday about some things they're trying with discipleship. And I was like, that is so cool. And anyway, so good things, Jason. Glad you could be part of the conversation.
And if you are not on our email list, what are you doing? I mean, what are you even doing? So anyway, if you go to reclaimleader.com/newsletter, you get on there, and I'm down to about once a month. I try not to kill people's inboxes, and I try to do it as when I have time to do it. So.
Like that. Everybody should know, if you're listening, Jason pretty much does all the work for the podcast, and then I just bring my pretty sort of used to be pretty face to the podcast. I'm getting older every day, but so anyway, you do awesome work. So thanks for doing that and keeping everybody in the loop and engaged, and it's good stuff.
Listen, I got to take care of the talent, Jesse. I just need you to show up.
That's
and
right.
Do your thing.
People are like, so what do you bring to the podcast? Yeah.
What do you do here?
Yeah.
Exactly.
What do you do here?
No. Anyway, we are this topic over the next couple of weeks. It might be 3. This is how dialed in we are. We don't know if we're going to do a third part yet, but talking about the importance of understanding why church health and focusing on church health is so much more important than focusing on church growth.
Yeah.
How they're related. I mean, church growth isn't unimportant, but I think what happens is, Jesse, is when we're trying to measure health, it's hard to measure. So we end up measuring the things that are easily measurable, like attendance and participation, engagement, which are all indicators of something, but not necessarily church health. And the reason I wanted to come back to this is because I didn't want people to get the wrong idea on the podcast, because we talked about church growth, or at least I have for sure over the last couple of months. And I know lots of really great churches and great pastors who are pretty flat as far as growth goes and are wondering, what am I doing wrong? We just had David Kling back on. Shout out, David. Love you, buddy. But David was talking about how, the growth wasn't happening. They were doing all the things. Remember you were saying, I did all the things and I did the pathway and I did all that and it wasn't doing anything. So what does that mean? Is it an indictment of your ministry, or is it showing the lack of faithfulness of your church?
Sure.
I don't think it necessarily is either of those, because numbers don't equal health.
Yeah.
Carl Vaders, in his book, Desizing the Church, we had him on back when that book came out.
So good.
He says, when the numbers stay up, they capture our attention, blinding us to what might really be going on in the church, including the pastor's own walk with God. Mm-hmm. If all healthy things grow, the false assumption is that all church growth is healthy.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good reminder.
I wanted to come back to why, if we focus on health, growth, if it's going to happen, is going to take care of itself.
Yeah. I mean, you can be a mile wide and an inch deep, right?
Yeah.
And you're not healthy. I mean, think about the parable of the sower or whatever, you can look at that, and just because something grows super fast doesn't mean it's going to last, or it's going to be the healthiest version of itself. So it's one indicator maybe of healthiness, but it's not the only one. And certainly if we can kind of focus in on what would make our church, this congregation, a really healthy one, then we can trust God with the outcomes around growth and those kinds of things, even as we pay attention to them, because they do matter. We should count things, but we have to keep it in mind what place that has in the hierarchy of our focus.
Yeah. I think it's, I think I've said before, I'm not interested in generating a crowd. I want a congregation. Mm-hmm. But I want to amend that. I am interested in getting a crowd, but I want them to become a congregation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No, because I should, hopefully I'm trying to reach as many people as we can as a church. Hopefully that's what we're doing. But if it's just about that, it's completely empty.
Yeah. And maybe even you could say reaching a crowd only in as much as we're able to bring them into a congregation and disciple them. Like, so, hey, if we can reach a crowd that we can't do anything more than that, then, well, maybe that's not good. So I like that you've added that piece of bringing them into a community or congregation, and what does it mean to be the kind of church that can disciple those that end up in our midst. So good stuff, Jason.
So this first installment here is mostly taking a look at Ryan Burge's work, and I had a good connection with him today, and he gave us permission to talk about this. It's on his Substack, so there's a paywall there, but I want to encourage you guys to go and follow him. Ryan Burge, you go to Substack, you follow his blogs, like a couple bucks a month, and he's got just absolute gems of information that all this data that he's doing. If you don't remember who he is the one who partnered with Michael Graham and Jim Davis on the Great De-Churching. He was largely the numbers research guy, and man, does he give some compelling research that I think is so helpful for all pastors to know. But again, Ryan Burge, Burge. And hopefully we're going to get him when his new book comes out to come and talk on the podcast. I'd love to meet him in person. But we're going to explore. He wrote a post on his Substack on October 30th called "Most Churches Aren't Growing. What can we learn from those that are?" Now, don't be tempted to think that this is just about church growth. You're going to see why it's about church health even more than church growth. Okay. So I'm going to quote a bit from his post. He began by talking about I'm sure everybody's heard this number by now, but the National Congregation Study and the FACT study both indicated that about 70% of congregations have fewer than 100 people in regular attendance. 70%. I think that's an amazing number, considering that includes mega churches. So I wonder what that number would be if their numbers were removed. Not great. But in his analysis, he said the following. He said, "My biggest takeaway from my analysis, multi-site churches are the ones driving the explosive growth numbers." So he references Outreach Magazine's top 100 list.
Yep.
He said, It's because these churches are multi-site. So he uses Mariners Church as an example. They added about 3,500 people in 2024. And they also operate around 10 different campuses throughout Southern California. He said, I spot checked several other churches on the list, and every single one followed this same pattern. Not one was just a single building in one location. Multi-site is the common thread that makes this kind of exponential growth possible. So where are all these churches clustered? He said, Florida, Georgia, Texas, the Carolinas. In other words, the Bible Belt.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, now let's circle back to this. Growth begets growth. When you look at where these churches are located, a pattern emerges.
Mm-hmm.
There's a heavy concentration in Florida, a strong presence in Texas and Carolinas. These are all parts of the country experiencing significant population growth.
That's right.
This highlights what is almost an iron law of church growth. It's incredibly difficult to plant and sustain a thriving church in a dying community. If the local population is shrinking, it's an uphill battle to grow a congregation.
Yeah.
I think this is just an important piece of information for every single pastor to remember when you feel like you're frustrated that your church isn't growing, or it's not growing at the rate that you are hoping for, or you think, hey, we're doing all the faithful things. And why? Well, maybe you're in a town that hasn't grown in years. It's only shrinking. It's going to be really hard to grow something. It's not impossible. But, you know, I would say our area is marginally shrinking. But we're getting a lot of transfer growth from, for example, Catholic churches, Catholic members. So he said in the most recent data from 2024 and 25, 47% of all fast-growing churches were in counties that have enjoyed explosive population growth. Put simply, a church on the outreach list is 7 times more likely to be in a high-growth county than a county chosen at random.
Yeah, that tracks. I mean, I think back to the history of Marine View Church here. Its biggest seasons of growth coincided with substantial new building, projects in our community, like housing. And so, part of it was really faithful ministry that was prepared to welcome people and to make a congregation that was a growing one. But it wasn't because all of a sudden some magic happened with our outreach and all of a sudden we reached a whole bunch of people that we weren't before. No, there was just this massive boom of population growth. And so the 90s into the early 2000s, there was, several really large housing developments that went up in our area. And that's the time when the church grew the most. And now, of course, as a time where we're growing, but it's modest and incremental over time. Sometimes people will say, well, back in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and I just want to get out like a housing development map and just slide it across the table and be like, this is why.
Yeah.
And you were probably one of those people that moved into the area. So it tracks. I was just reading about, I think North Carolina and South Carolina were the top 2 for destinations for people moving from one state to another last year, something like that. So it tracks. These people are going to be moving to an area. Many of them will be looking for a church community. Just adds up. Yeah.
And I think for pastors who are feeling frustrated, I think this is an opportunity to reframe the conversation and temper expectations so that you're not constantly feeling like you're less than or not doing a good job or whatever it is. Maybe it's because the focus is on the wrong outcome anyway. Yeah. Not that church growth, again, I think church growth is a good thing by and large. I do think, although I will hold in tension Carl Vader's critique of the statement that healthy things grow, because I think he's right. Sometimes unhealthy things grow. I don't know. I got a lot of weeds, Jesse, in my yard, and they seem to grow even better than the real stuff. So So I think, though, this is an opportunity to reframe it and to focus on church health.
Yeah.
And because I think there's a big difference. Healthy churches may be small, but they're not stuck and they're not stagnant.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one of those YouTube videos. Every once in a while, like, I don't know, everybody knows like all the random stuff comes across your feed. I get all these recipes and how I'm supposed to make things with cottage cheese to get protein. I'm like, what? Like, come on. I guess, once I watched a recipe.
Aaron's been whispering cottage cheese into your phone.
It's probably like forever into the algorithm. And then, but the other thing was, so it was this video of this guy, and he's standing in waders in a parking lot that's like full of water. There was like maybe 6 inches of water there. And he takes a big stick and he mucks out the drain, and the whole lot just kind of instantly drains. And I was thinking, what happens in churches is there are plenty of churches of all sizes that are so stagnant and mucked up that they should be focusing on that rather than inviting people to an unhealthy church.
Mm-hmm.
What was that phrase we heard? Are you a disciple? Oh, I heard this recently. Are you a disciple worth replicating?
Ouch, man. It's not,
that's a good question.
That's not a very nice thing to say to somebody. That's like a John the Baptist thing to say to somebody.
I know. Yeah, it is. But man, is your church a church worth replicating? Is it something that's going to help somebody in the end be part of the body of Christ in a tangible way and participate in the life of the church?
I think that's right on, Jason. I think it may be a way we could talk about it as healthy things grow healthy things. You know? So
I like that.
Non-healthy things might grow, but they're growing unhealthy things. It's like Jesus in the parable of, the fruits, there's good fruit, there's bad fruit. Out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So like, what kind of tree are you? And both trees are growing fruit. Some of it's healthy, good fruit, some of it's not. And so, healthy things grow healthy things. And so healthy churches grow healthy disciples, healthy communities, healthy outreach. And it might mean numerical growth, but it might mean, hey, we hover around the same number or maybe grow a little bit in our attendance, but man, we've grown healthy outreach and healthy impact on our community around us. So that fruit can look like lots of things. So I love it, Jed. I think this is really important because if you're a pastor and you keep showing up at conferences and the first thing out of everybody's mouth is, how many people come to your church on Sunday? Eventually we get around to that question. There is this weird part of us where our identity gets tied to whatever that number is. And then so we automatically add 30 or 40 or whatever that to and then it just doesn't quite feel right. But what if we could say, hey, I'm part of a healthy church, and I love that we have healthy things growing out of our healthy church. Like, something like that.
So here's a suggestion for how to clear the drain pretty quickly, no matter what size church you are. And this is something that I write about. I mean, the whole reason I wrote my book, which is it's coming out in February. You could pre-order it, by the way. You can pre-order it on Amazon.
Get you on the schedule for a podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to be pretty busy, but
I'll talk to your PR people, see what we can do.
But it's called Speaking Their Language, and it's all about how do we have a healthy process to grow healthier. One of the reasons I wrote it is because what I discovered is churches that wanted to bring me in, a lot of churches that wanted to bring me in to help kind of coach them, honestly couldn't really afford to do it. And they're the ones who need it the most. And so I wanted to write a book that they can get for like less than $20 that describes the process. Because I think the process is absolutely everything. I think if your church has a good process and you as a pastor, you can lead your church through it or have somebody lead them through it, you will grow healthier, no doubt, even if you don't grow bigger. And so let me talk through that a little bit. What does that process look like? Honestly, pick a consulting firm, pick a consultant. All of our processes are very, very similar because there's only so many different ways for you to work on these problems.
Yeah.
Mine is 4 Ds: discover, discern, decide, deploy. And all it really is figuring out who are we? And this is a loaded question, Jesse, because if I were to ask people in my congregation, depending on their age and stage or how long they've been here, if I said, who are we? I might get an answer of a church that was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
The highlight reel. What you really need to get to is who are we really? Who are we right now? Then who are we trying to reach? And why aren't we reaching them? What's the gap? Then what are we going to try
That's
in
right.
order to close the gap? Like truly, I
This
mean, I
is
could have saved a lot of time and
if
energy.
you like go to like 3 years of school for this, because it's like it's powerful. No, you're right. It's funny though. Simple things are often the things that we don't do until somebody puts it on a piece of paper and says, follow these 4 Ds. And then we're like, oh, and it helps it click.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So try something, then what?
Yeah. So then here's the magic here is in the process.
Mhm.
Church health is found in the process,
Mhm.
not even necessarily in the outcomes. And this is something I want all pastors to hear, because the goal of church renewal is spiritual.
Mhm.
The goal of church renewal is faithfulness. Everything else, successful ministry strategies, greater engagement, is all a byproduct of faithfulness. Revitalization happens when a faith community decides not just to lead change, but to lead change in God's direction.
Mhm.
And in a way, you've heard me say this before, it doesn't even matter what you decide to do, as long as you decide to work on it together and it's in line with God's missional call.
Yeah. That's so spot on. Just get to work on something that
Just
is
get to
moving
work.
in the direction that
Do
God, yeah,
something.
yeah. The life follows behind that. Yeah.
Exactly right. And because what happens is if I were to tell you, or if you were to say, well, what if it doesn't accomplish what we hope?
Mhm.
I say it's not time wasted. I say you are not a stagnant church, even if you're not growing numerically,
Yeah.
because what you're doing is you are risking and trusting on a plan that you prayerfully thought through together to be more faithful in your mission. Everybody grows. And what happens at the end, let's say it's honestly, I've never had a zero return on this process, but it just might not be what you think, or it may lead to something else that leads to something else. But what happens is you as a congregation, you as a leadership, you change, you grow
Yeah.
as a congregation. And I think that is everything
Yeah.
to becoming a healthy church.
I love it, man. That's good stuff. And so we're going to be able to dive into that a little more in February. And well, I can't wait. I can't wait for your book to come out, Jason, because it really is, in some ways, it's the culmination of some studying that you did and learning from others like Bob Weitzel and others, but also a lived experience of a pastor in the trenches, figuring it out and figuring out what works and doesn't work and how to shape a congregation over time to move in God's direction. And so it's going to be a ton of fun to get to read that and invite people to engage with it. So nicely done, man.
Well, thank you. I mean, I am excited about it. It's also a little weird talking about it, and oh man, but anyway, yes, excited. But the whole point is, if we can just focus on working a process together toward greater faithfulness, the Lord provides the fruit. And most likely you're going to have growth in one way or another, whether it's numerical or not, but you're probably going to have numerical growth.
Yeah.
But you just can't make that your focus.
That's right. And I think it's like our good friend Caitlin Wood says, like a lot of times we want to skip to the fruit, right?
Yeah,
we want to focus there and we're like, what can we do? And so I think that her analogy is we end up like hanging fake fruit on a tree and like going, look, or whatever. But instead of getting back into the process or some other aspect in our church life that needs work, so that good fruit will come and that God will grow that in us. So I love it. I think this is spot on stuff. And so I hope this is encouraging for all of us as pastors, just to hear that and go, this explosive growth that you hear about sometimes, there's a reason for that. It's because a whole bunch of people moved into the area, and good for them and nice job being faithful there. But if you're in a stagnant community or a declining community as far as population around you, it's not surprising that the growth that some others are experiencing isn't what you're seeing. And it doesn't mean that you're not healthy. If you're just in a different environment.
Absolutely. Well, next week, we're going to get back to this topic. We're going to talk more specifically about, what does a healthy church look like?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about building something rather than worrying about, again, just sort of like this outcome that we hope. How do you kind of build something? How do you invite people to something, not just invite them? And I got a couple examples for that. And then we're going to quickly go over how this relates to the upcoming Christmas opportunity that we have, which is the biggest outreach opportunity of the year. And you all know that. You don't need me to tell you that. But just a reminder of some things that I think work really well and can be little tweaks to what you're already doing to help you engage more people at Christmas time.
Yeah.
So anyway, other than that, anyone you want to reach out, Jason or Jesse at reclaimleader.com. Anything before we sign off here, Jesse?
No, Jason, I just love it. This is one of my favorite topics, talking church health and how do we go about that. So thanks for the intro, and we're going to dive into some more of that next time.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And remember, ministry is hard. It is so much better when we do it together.